We need to establish a very clear mission for victory throughout the Middle East. We want to defeat ISIS. We want to remove Assad from power. And I have proposed a resolution calling on our NATO partners to collectively pool our resources, pool our intelligence, and pool our energies to come up with a multilateral strategy to accomplish those couple of things. Now, I can imagine that some of the components to a strategy will involve flying more sorties, loosening the rules of engagement so that we can kill more of the terrorists on the ground, and establishing safe zones to address this humanitarian crisis on the ground rather than leading to a refugee crisis both in Europe and here in the United States. None of this will be accomplished if we continue the Obama-Clinton lead from behind foreign policy. I'm a Marine Corps intelligence officer. I will be vigilant against whomever our next president of the United States is, making sure they have a very clear policy and the U.S. stays engaged in the world. Thank you.
Mr. Bayh.
Well, Ken, I think it's a good thing that we can agree on a bipartisan manner that we should fight ISIS and defeat global terrorism. We need to continue the offensive that just started in the last 48 hours to retake Mosul, to deny them their safe space in Iraq. Our special forces in Syria should work with the Kurds and the Turks to retake Raqqa, to deny them their safe spaces in Syria from which they can launch attacks against us. We need to empower our intelligence services, and I've been pleased to work for the last 6 years as an advisor to the CIA to make sure that we can combat ISIS abroad so they can't attack us at home. We need to empower our Department of Homeland Security and our FBI so that they can find lone wolf attackers here at home before they have a chance to strike. But most of all, what we need to do to combat the scourge of global terrorism is to win the war of ideas. Because simply put, we are better than our adversaries. We stand for freedom. They stand for despotism. We stand for the right to worship God, to elect our officials, and to speak our minds as we see fit. And I think if we stand for those things and those principles, then in the long run we will triumph over our adversaries who stand for beheadings and terrorism.
Vladimir Putin and Russia. Russia has become increasingly active internationally in the past few years. Do you see Russia as a potential ally in the war on terrorism that needs to be courted by the U.S., or as a potential aggressor and enemy that needs to be confronted? Mr. Bayh.
Well, Ken, Vladimir Putin is a tyrant, and he's deeply hostile to the United States. The only thing the man understands is power, and so we have to push back. We have to push back and impose more economic sanctions for his aggression in the Ukraine. I agree with Secretary Kerry there should be war crimes trials to bring those responsible in Syria and in Russia to account for the crimes that they are committing inside Syria. I think that we should encourage the Europeans to develop their natural gas exports, which would make them more independent from the Russian natural gas. But above all, we need to work with our allies to make sure that Vladimir Putin knows that we will stand strong and united against an aggressive Russia. Make no mistake. Oh, and the final thing, Ken, these reports that Russia is seeking to meddle in our domestic elections, this is deeply disturbing. There should be a consequence for that. We should take cyber actions against the financial interests of those in charge in Moscow. We cannot let the Russians commit crimes in Syria, Iraq, or meddle in our elections.
Mr. Young.
This is clearly why we need a change. We need a change with respect to our lead from behind Obama-Clinton foreign policy. It's inviting aggression from dictators like Vladimir Putin, and he's not done. It's the Ukraine, it's the Crimea, it's Syria. The Baltic states certainly are now being threatened. So this is a object lesson in why we cannot lead from behind. We have to stay engaged in the world.